Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy Jarrell Mason, aka Jay Mason. Welcome to the very first Beyond the Album Cover episode of 2024. Happy New Year's to everybody. And we're going to keep cranking out the best podcast that we know how to do here. And we're going to get in the know with those in the industry and giving them their flowers while they're here to be celebrated. With me, I have my brother, another music fan just like I, and it's great how because of technology you get to meet like-minded people who like the same things you do. And I've been following this guy for years, chatting on Facebook about music. We have the same taste. So we're gonna get into all that and more with my homie D Will. D Will, welcome to Beyond the Album Cover, bro, and it's long overdue to have you on.
Jay, what's up, man? First of all, it's an honor for you to interview me, man. This is I'm lost for words, man.
Man,
this
it's
this is
definitely
amazing.
a pleasure, to have you on the podcast. And I appreciate you following the podcast and even probably back during my time machine days on WAG with all the interviews I've cranked out there. So I really appreciate you and everybody else who's been supporting the movement for
Oh,
almost
much
20
love, my
years
brother.
in.
Much love, my brother. Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. And as we're recording this podcast, it is Saturday, January the 20th, which is National DJ Day. So I want to say shout out to all my fellow DJs, past and present. Keep doing your thing. Make sure to hit that post and make sure not to have any dead air. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Where were you born and what was your first musical memory, such as either watching it on TV or maybe going to a record store and buying a record with your own money or maybe money that your parents might have got you?
Thank you for asking. I was originally born in Flint, Michigan. Shout out to Ready for the World, hometown homies, Flintstone. But yes, and then I grew up as a kid. I think I was 3 years old. I said, first of all, mom always had the TV on with VO Donnie Simpson, VH1, MTV, and always had the radio playing at the house nonstop. So I fell in love with that. And I just sat there and watched VO Soul and I got tuned into it. And then I fell in love with it. And then my mom gave me my first cassette was New Edition Heartbreak. And I fell in love with music since then, since that album right there.
Man, a classic choice. The Heartbreak album, which came out in 1988. It was the first new album at the time in 3 years for New Edition because before that, the only new material album they had out at that time was the All for Love album. Now it's the last album that they recorded with Bobby Brown before he got voted
Right.
out. And then, of course, he reunited with the group 11 years
Facts.
later for the Home Again album. And
Facts.
then when Heartbreak came out, it was the new edition, no pun intended, to New Edition, which was Johnny Gill.
Right.
And as we saw with that album, it just really worked wonders for New Edition and it launched them into their new space of we're not that kiddie group 5 years ago that was doing Candy Girl, Is
Right.
This the End, Mr. Telephone Man. We've matured in our sound and our look. And with the
Is
addition of Johnny, I think that was the move that they were really wanting to make prior to that album, but necessarily didn't really have the personnel or the producers, songwriters in place
right.
to help them really make
Exactly.
that transition. And that was what they really got to do once they hooked up with Jam and Lewis.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, because of course, all the labels they trying to put you in that box, that same box. They put you on in the pop, bubblegum pop, and then you know it be time like the the next album. You want something different. You want to do something different. You want to you getting older. You want to get mature. You want to have a mature sound. You and it's just like I think Johnny Gill. When they added Johnny Gill, I'm telling you, they made a statement on that album straight up. I said this so many times. They made a statement. They said, "Ain't no Candy Girl, nothing like that." It was, "Can you stand the rain? And if it isn't love, hey, I can go on and on, man."
Right? But if you go listen to that album, I think nobody really pays attention to the sequencing of that album, which is an underrated aspect of putting together an album. You can have a great album, But if your track sequence is out of order, it can throw the whole album off. Because when you listen to that album from beginning to end, it tells a story from the intro as the open to Boys to Men as the closer, which we found out in New Editions Behind the Music that Johnny really wasn't a fan of that record.
Oh, he wasn't. He he wanted to, he did not like that song. He did everything to mess it up, but it ended up being a good song.
Right, and then as we saw in the New Edition miniseries, once they started working with Jeremy Lewis in Minneapolis, I believe Ralph was working on a solo project at the time that I
Right.
think eventually ended up getting shelved. So once he came in, it was almost like we brought Johnny in, but left you out the loop. But I guess once they got the iron straightened out and all that, we really saw what a force they became once Johnny, Ralph, and everybody got on the same page.
Almost definitely. That's like I said, that's like that album made a statement because like they would make a statement that this ain't no bubble gum. We ain't doing that bubble gum stuff no anymore because like we getting older. It's time to take it to the next level.
Yep.
And that's why I said they made a good choice with Johnny Gill because and he shocked me as well because at his age with a grown man voice like that at his age at the time I'm like, oh my god.
Right, because he was 14, 15, putting out Super Love, Perfect Combination with Stacey Lattisaw,
Hmm.
Have Crazy. It was where you knew he was talented, but prior to coming into New Edition, he didn't have the material, I feel, that showcased his true vocal ability. And then once he got with New Edition on the Heartbreak album, then later went back to being as a solo artist on Motown, we really got to see, like, okay, now that he has material that's suited for him, people really got to see how talented vocally he was as a solo artist.
Exactly. And let me say, man, I wear that. I had to get that. I had to get another album of that Johnny Gill album because I wore that first album to death. I like it from front to back. It's worn out so many times. No
Right,
skips.
right. And the crazy thing about that album was produced by LA and Babyface
Right.
and Jam and Lewis, who white hot. Because when you think about R&B at that time period, you think of LA Babyface, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, and of course Teddy Riley. So to have LA and Face and Jam and Lewis produce that Motown solo album, that was a win-win for Johnny.
Oh, absolutely, bro. Absolutely, man. No question. And that's why I said, man. That's why I love about these type of music. This R&B that I grew up on. You know what I'm saying? Because like it has a story. You can relate to. You like, oh my god. Every song from the lyrics, something like that, it's like a soap opera or something like that. you know.
Right. But
Even though I had to sit through all of that before I get to watch TV and nothing like that because we only had one TV at the time. But anyway, I hope my mom don't hear that. But anyway,
yeah, you young folks don't know about that struggle where it's that one TV in the house and you had to have a designated TV time where, okay, you got the TV from 5 to 8, mom got the TV from 8 to 10, dad got the TV from 10 until sign off. They don't do that no more. I just outdated myself with how old I am. But we also cannot forget about the Monster album that came out a week either before or after the Heartbreak album, which was Don't Be Cruel by Bobby Brown, which was the
oh
best
my god.
selling album of '89, crossed Bobby over into pop, and he went on the Heartbreak tour with NE. And on most nights, he left smoke on that stage. It was where he was opening on that tour. And I believe by the end of that tour, he was ending up almost going on close to NE where he was going on before, but it was where the album just took off so big to where you couldn't deny that Bobby's impact soloing pretty much gave all the other guys a boost in the back. Whereas, like, hey, if Bob is doing this solo, if we put out solo projects, we can do some damage.
Absolutely. Because like what group that that honestly, what group that can did that like New Edition did. So that's like amazing, man. that's it's, wow. It's just I'm telling
Yeah,
you, man, history in the making, brother.
yeah, not on the R&B side, but I believe on the pop side, you had the Beatles and the Eagles, which kind of duplicated what any did, where everybody had solo
True.
success. But when you think about Don't Be Cruel and how, as we saw in Bobby's miniseries that came out, it was almost where I believe he really wasn't too fond of LA and Babyface because at that time they were used to doing the lush ballads, with their stuff with the deal and working with
Yeah,
Pebbles and Bobby's energy, personality screamed bite. Like he had to have that edge. You got to mix that street with the sweet. And I think that
exactly.
album pretty much had that perfect blend of the street and the sweet. And if you didn't know any better, the way Bobby's aesthetic was, fashion wise, look wise, and attitude when he comes across on records, you probably would assume that he was a rapper.
I'm telling you, man, you would thought that was like a hip hop soul album. He- I'm like, he went all in that album. He was a beast on that
Mm,
album. You talking about beast mode? That was man.
yeah, yeah, that album was a monster. And when you think about 1988, that was a great year in music. I just recently posted on Facebook. It was off of it was a picture of seminal R&B albums that came out in '88. You had
Mhm.
Anita Baker's album, I believe it was the "Giving You the Best I Got" album,
Which I have.
Guys debut, "Don't Be Cruel," "Heartbreak," and "In Effect Mode." All of those albums came out in 1988. And when you think about three, four of those five albums are considered the pillar albums when we think of the New Jack Swing era. So can we
Absolutely.
just talk about the impact of those four albums? We already talked about Heartbreak, but can we talk about In Effect Mode's impact, Guy's debut album impact, and the impact of Don't Be Cruel and go a little bit more in depth with that one?
Man, the impact with me with guys, the guy album. Oh my God, man, it's like I, that album I wore that to death as well, man. Because I would play tell you from start to finish. Because with me, I listen to albums from start to finish, and then sometimes I will go back to that track when I get done with the album. Oh my God, it's just like I be dancing, be singing on it. And I even go to sleep with it on sometimes. That's what helped me go to sleep or something like that. Cause there's some bangers on there for real. Cause I'm like Teddy Jam and spend the night, just dance, just dance, clap your hands. Oh my God, I feel like playing it right now as we speak, but I know due to the copyright. But yeah, it's and then I'll be sure, bruh. What can I say about this man right here, man? This man is phenomenal, and from the album from start to finish, like I said, man, because that's why I'm thankful that I had that album. I'm thankful that I grew up at the time I got the chance to listen to that album or something like that from watching him on Video Soul, doing his thing on videos and stuff like that. It's just man, if I had a time machine, I would go back to that again. It's
I
and
definitely would agree with you. And then let's talk about a little bit more about Don't Be Cruel and how when that came out, Bobby was able to milk that album for 4 years because that album dropped in '88 and the Bobby album didn't come out until '92.
when he came out with Don't Be Cruel, let me say you, he he wasn't playing no games at all, man. He made to be sure that why he was called the king of stage, because the dancing, the showmanship, putting on the show, the ladies, everything, man. It's just like you were like, man, he's like he coming up with a vengeance because he proving to the world that is he gonna do what he's going to do it because it's his prerogative.
Right. Like I said on the Heartbreak Tour, he left smoke on stage to where you didn't want to come up on stage after Bobby because Bobby was gonna rip it down. And kind of think about it, it was before the album really exploded, and he had a little extra fuel to the fire to prove that okay, y'all gonna do this, y'all just unleashed a monster. And that's what it did because as you see New Edition to this day, all six still out, still touring, still showing the professionalism, the showmanship that has been embedded in them since when they
And
first
brotherhood.
formed in 1978. Because when you think about it, they were already being groomed 5 years prior to when the rest of the world saw them. That was in 83 with Candy Girl, but they had already
Yep.
been working in and around the Boston talent show circuit 5 years prior to their international worldwide debut. And as we see with Brooke Payne, let's give Brooke Payne his flowers. The silent
Absolutely.
one, the
Most
seventh member
definitely.
of NE. I feel
Amen, my brother.
Brooke is the glue that holds NE together. Because when you think about it, when you look at the miniseries, he took a chance on this group of
Yes.
kids,
Yes.
trained them, molded them, shaped them, gave
Mm-hmm.
them the look, gave them the name. And Brooke came from that school of the choreography of Charlie Atkins. If you don't know who Charlie Atkins is, he was the late great choreographer who choreographed a lot of. And if you listen to and look at
Yep.
groups such as Blue Magic, The Whispers, Temptations, Shy Lights, Stylistics,
OJ's.
OJ's, the R&B groups of the 60s and 70s, Brooke Payne molded New Edition in the style of that, and New Edition sprinkled in a little bit of hip hop flavor in there because this is right around when rap was just starting, and they mixed the old with the new. And as you can see, it is a combination that is still working to this day. New Edition still out, still touring, and they have an upcoming residency in Las Vegas, which has, I believe, exceeded all expectations with the sellout of tickets. And I believe they're
Absolutely.
going to be in the process of maybe adding more dates to accommodate more fans wanting to go. And I believe this will be the start of something bigger for them, maybe a longer term residency, kind of like how Celine Dion, Usher, some of the bigger names. And then, of course, it's not going to
Exactly.
be a matter of how they're going to get inducted. It's going to be a matter of when they're going to get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I believe will be sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. They deserve these fellas deserve their flowers as well because they open the doors for the boys, high five. I can there's so many groups out there I can't name, but they know what I'm talking about though. It's
Yeah,
just like wow, they just legends, legendary,
yeah,
legendary.
yeah, legendary. Like you said, you mentioned some of the groups who came up after New Edition and the impact that they made on R&B, but also talk about the impact that they made on the pop side as well. New Kids on the Block, pop
Yep.
counterpart act to New Edition, Backstreet
Mm-hmm.
Boys, NSYNC, 98 Degrees, all
Yeah.
of the pop groups from the 90s and 2000s pretty much followed the blueprint of New Edition. And then also on the female side too, if you take a look at TLC, their imaging, their styling on the Ooh on the TLC Tip album, that whole thing was pretty much the female equivalent of BBD.
Oh, I was just about to say that. Yes, you are so right. Yes, yes. One of
Yeah,
one of my top favorite girl groups of all time.
yeah, and no Boys to Men. If it wasn't for Michael Bivins taking a chance and listening to them sing at the Power Fest out in Philly, and Boys to Men became the biggest selling male pop group of
Of
all
all
time,
time.
and they're an extension of the New Edition family tree. ABC, no Biff 10, and I'm glad
Right.
that Michael Bivins got to put out the documentary The Hustle of at 617 Mike Biv so that everybody could see how deep his branches runs in the music industry and how
Yeah.
a lot of things got started because of New Edition and our Michael Bivins, and how like I mentioned, it sounds like a broken record that they're still one of the top draws when you go out to see them in your area. People are still falling over them like it's 1983 all over again. Still have the
Absolutely.
perm in your hair, even a curly weave with your new edition Bobby Brown button on your sleeve.
Yeah.
Shout out to Uncle L, LL Cool J.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Straight up.
straight up. And I want to talk about really quick. We're going to switch gears. Give me your top three underrated male R&B groups. We could go from 80s, 90s, 2000s. Top three underrated male R&B groups.
Of course. We're gonna start with today
Good one.
because I felt like they should have got more recognition than they did, but because they was talented. Shout out to Big Bub. Shout out to him. Shout out to Chief, West, and Love. Shout out to all of them. New Jersey in the house. But yes, because their album was fire from start to finish, man. I'm telling you, like I said, and then Girl, I Got My Eyes on You, which I wish it was a music video to that one to this day. And classic, man. It's just like, man. See, man, it's just like you grow up when you listen to these music, man. You want to dance. It make you feel good. It make you feel like you want to party. No drama, nothing like that. Just having a good vibes. You know what I'm saying? So they the first. They my first top on that in that on that list. And number two, and it could be a girl group, right? Too.
Yeah, we could do girls too. But
Okay,
we're gonna do
okay.
males and then we're gonna go underrated female.
Oh, okay. Second group, I want to say Portrait, and because these brothers is talented, man. And here we go again, Honey Dip, Day by Day, Feelings, Hard. I'm like, I can name the songs on and on and on, but it's too much, too many to name. But but they were so dope, man. Shout out to Michelangelo Salisbury, and these cats can sing. And
You have
and to
one
come to
more.
find out, one of them from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I said I did not know that, man, because I live in Oklahoma City. I reside in Oklahoma City now. So I say that's cool.
Oh,
And it's real dope, man.
yeah, you got one more group.
Oh yeah, one more group. And last but not least, I want to say the underrated group. I want to say is I know they, but I'm gonna say this in Silk because these brothers, same five, and they still putting out the show, still doing their thing, and Lose Control tonight, the second album, which I had to, I had a lot of headaches on that second album. I keep telling people that tonight is not their second album; it's their third album. Their second album was the self-titled, came out in '95.
And I believe the
It
self-titled one, that was the one with Hooked on You as the lead single, right?
Yeah, Hooked on You, Don't Rush, I Can Go Deep, which also was featured on Low Down Dirty Shame soundtrack as well.
Because I believe the third album you're speaking of, that was the one with If You, and then was Meeting in My Bedroom off of that album as well? Was it off of
Yes,
the following album?
yes, tonight it was on the album tonight, the third album, because they
Mm,
took a hiatus,
mm,
from the music scene from almost 3 years,
mm.
and
Yeah,
they came back with a vengeance on this album.
mm, yeah, but a great list of your three. So I'm going to give you my three underrated male R&B groups in no particular order. Intro.
Yes,
So for me, I tell people this all the time. Intro, for me, is the only group where their first two albums you could play from start to finish, no skips. Kenny Green, rest in peace, vocally
yes,
was a monster. Pen game, was sick. I mean, their version of Ribbon in the Sky, I put that up there with O'Brien's You and I as one of the best Stevie Wonder covers I've heard. You know, I had a chance
Absolutely.
to interview Buddy from Intro, and Buddy was telling me that um Let Me Be the One originally was supposed to go on What's the 411 for Mary J. But what ended up
Really?
happening was that I think the album was already turned in time to Uptown, so they
Yeah.
weren't able to give it to her. So they ended up just cutting it for them. Because if you think about Intro already had a buzz because of their work that they did with Mary J, Shinehead, other acts. Because they were through the Untouchables with Eddie F, David Jam Hall, Neville Hodge,
Yep.
that whole crew. So by the time the debut came out in '93, it was where we were transitioning out of New Jack Swing. We were going into hip hop soul, which was like the name says, hip hop with soul,
And so,
because they came up going through their parents' record crates, sampling these old soul records and putting a little fresh spin
hip.
to it with the hip hop
Yep.
vocals. Because if you listen to What's the 411 album, and you listen to that blend that Kid Capri did, where he mixed Impeach the President by the Honey Drippers, Something in the Way You Make Me Feel, and the vocals to Stephanie Mills, Something in the Way
Yes.
You Make Me Feel. I believe that was where Diddy probably got the idea of, let's take this and this, put it on her, and make it a smash hit. And that it became with What's the 411.
Most
But like I
definitely.
was saying back to intro, the debut album and the New Life album, both those albums you could play from top to bottom, no skips. My other most underrated R&B group. This may be a group that some people may not be familiar with. Only real ones probably know this group. They were signed to Atlantic Records. They were, I believe, a four-man group based out of New Orleans, Louisiana. They went by the name of The Real Seduction. They put out an album called Is Real
Yeah.
back around 93. Had a record called Ain't Nothing Wrong. I believe Intro wrote that for them. I had a chance to interview The Real Seduction on Beyond the Album cover. And I just felt it
Very
was
underrated.
where, right around that time, where it was a glut of male R&B groups, and they kind of got lost in the shuffle. But vocally, sound wise, dope from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then my other most underrated group, I don't feel they're underrated. I feel a lot of people probably feel this way because they didn't have that pop hit. But this group, for me, they're up there with New Edition. They are my favorite group next to New Edition. You probably know who I'm talking about too. I'm talking about those boys out of Pasadena. Reggie, rest in peace.
True.
Rodney, Allen,
True.
Steve,
True.
John. Total respect of other people. Man, those brothers, I mean, they took what New Edition did and they added a West Coast flavor to it because
Flipped
their
it. Yep.
dancing, it was just as tight, but they had the elements of popping and locking. And the debut album, Mamacita, produced by Levert, Smash My Heart, produced by Chucky Booker.
Chucky Booker.
And
Yeah.
that debut album set the stage for what was to later come with the Attitude album, which came out in '89.
Yeah,
And
man.
when you think about it, that album, it was where Troop made a statement as well, where they're like, okay, we kind of opened the door on the debut, but we're gonna come hard on the Attitude album. And if it wasn't for that Attitude album, we may not have heard of a little producer that you all may know and love, talking about Mr. Dallas Austin. Because that was the first album where he got his taste of producing, because he was signed
That's
through
right.
Joyce Cinderella Irby from Climax to do production through her production company, because he did Hey Mr. DJ
Facts.
for her. He
Facts.
did My Music, I'll Always Love You for Troop's
Yes.
Attitude album. And then later, of course, ABC produced the Cooley Harmony album for Boys to Men. And then, of course, mostly everything with TLC.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, man. That Attitude album, man. I gotta say shout out to that album because that album was that's a very special album too. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a special album to me because that came out on my birthday.
Wow, what a better way to celebrate your birthday than to listen to Spread My Wings. I'm Not Soup. All I do is think of you. And Troop holds a special meaning to me because if it wasn't for them, none of these interviews wouldn't have happened because Alan gave me my very first interview ever. And, I could say I had the pleasure of interviewing 4 out of the 5 members of Troop. I had a chance to
And
interview
I enjoyed it.
Rodney, Alan, Steve, John, and I also got to interview Chucky as well. And I don't know if
I
you know
remember that.
this
Yep.
about Spread My Wings, but it was actually a song that initially wasn't on the album because Turned Away was originally supposed to go to Troop.
Yep.
Yeah, because when I interviewed Chucky told me that he had played it for Sylvia Rome, who was head of Atlantic Records at the time. And she told
Yes.
him, this is going on your album. And he was trying to convince her, like, no, this is a Troop record. She was like, nope, this is going for you. So when he told Troop that, they were like, man, we want a record similar to that. And that's how we got Spread My Wings, because if you listen to both of those records back to back, is a seamless transition. And the video for Spread My Wings, I mean, them
My favorite
dancing and
video.
breaking down on the roof for me is up there with If It Isn't Love. If It Isn't Love is 1. Spread My Wings for me is
Yes.
number 2. Because I
Yes.
mean, the way they were getting it on that roof, oh my God. Because True, when
Man.
you saw them perform as a 5-piece on that stage, they're still out doing their thing as a foursome since, the passing of Reggie Warren, rest in
Yeah.
peace.
Rest in
That
peace.
they still have the moves, they still outperforming the touring. And of course, all the work Steve been doing as a producer and songwriter with the Underdogs, and also
Yep.
individually did No Air for Jordan Sparks, Chris Brown, Gas to Be for B2K, and
Yep. Yep.
other records that we all know. If you had not checked out his interview that he did on the R&B Money podcast with Tank and Jay Valentine, definitely check that out so you can get the
Absolutely.
full story of Troop, of Steve, and his journey in the music industry, and how those 5 men from Pasadena
Yeah.
came
Shout out to
in
them.
and really set the stage. Now, I was
And
curious, have you ever seen any of these acts live?
as a matter of fact, I'm glad you meant yes. My first true concert when they came up, when I heard they was coming here in Oklahoma City, 2016. It was on the Juneteenth, and they was going to be there downtown, in the park near downtown, and John already told me to shout out to him. And before I tell the story, if it wasn't for John, I wouldn't met none of these good people that I'm friends with today. So shout out to him. But anyway, so soon they came on stage. Reggie, John, and Steve came on stage, put on the show. John already recognized who I was. He gave me some love, and we chopped it up. After that, I made history because, first of all, as a kid, I thought I was never. As a kid, I thought I was never meet one of my R&B heroes in life, but I was wrong because in 2016, I made history that day when I met them 3 in person, and That's why I always cherish that picture that I be posting sometimes.
Yeah,
And
man.
John and John, like he like a brother. He like a big brother I never had. So it was amazing because it's that's my brother for life, man. And he chopped it up with me at the hotel. He was so nice. He was so cool with my moms. We was like you think we was like family. You know what I'm saying? We are family pretty much.
Mm,
So that was the that was one of the highlights in that horrific 2016, if you know what I mean.
right,
And
right.
so yes, and then second time I made history again. Hold on, put my headphones on. I'm sorry. I made history again when they came here last year on back in May. It with this time with Rodney and Allen. I got to meet Allen and Rodney for the first time, and that was Allen's idea. He wanted that picture to taken, so I made history. These see that honestly, man, I ain't trying to say I'm starstruck. I ain't trying to be like, I'm starstruck or something like that, but it was a blessing. A lot of people asked me, a lot of people said, man, hey man, you lucky you saw them. I said, no, no, that's not luck. That's a blessing. And I'm gonna say that why? Because God is good. Because He blessed me to finally to meet one of my R&B heroes, which I thought I was never gonna be in life. And I'm telling you, God works in mysterious ways, man. So shout out to them. They will forever get flowers from me. And rest in
Yeah,
peace, Reggie.
yeah, rest in peace, Reggie. And I want to go back to today. You mentioned today, man, their debut album and the new Formula album, Heat, Big Bub. I tell people all the time vocally, Big Bub was Luther Vandross, is Luther Vandross, dipped and bathed in hip hop. Vocally,
Oh
if
yeah,
you listen to him, I mean, his solo records, fire. And of course,
yeah,
he's been doing songwriting and producing as well. Did Mary
yep.
J. Blige and various
Mm-hmm.
other acts. And
Mm-hmm.
today they were a problem. And once rest in peace to Bernard Bell, because I believe Bernard Bell, he did some stuff on
Yep.
today as well, because he was right hand man with Teddy and almost all the stuff Teddy did back in the 80s, 90s, of course, Dangerous album and everything. Bernard Bell had a hand in that.
Absolutely.
If you don't know who Bernard Bell was, Google him, look him up,
Go.
and
Yep.
that
That's right.
also gonna throw in a bonus male group who I felt was very underrated that didn't really get the credit and love they deserve. I'm gonna give you two. Since I'm feeling nice, you're getting two for the price of one. So the first group I'm gonna give that I felt was underrated. I felt that they were good, but I felt the label they were on didn't match what they were doing vocally at all. You
Yep.
know who I'm talking about. They were in a
Come
little
on.
movie that we all know and love called Lean on Me. We know the school song, even though we didn't go to East Side High. And I'm talking
Oh,
about Riff.
yes. Riff. Oh my God, you hit the nail on the head, man. These brothers right here, they are so talented. Each and every one of them, they bring the flavor to. I'm like the doo wop, hip hop, and New Jack Swing. They is all the above, man. And you're right, man. I feel like, to me, in my personal opinion, they were slept on. They were really slept on because that's why I keep telling a lot of people, like a lot of people be thinking that aren't that the record business is rainbows and sunshine and ice cream and something. No, it is a cutthroat business that if you don't have the right team with you, man, it's gonna just look at Unsung. Just look at anything all these artists, they tell you about the business. They tell you how it can be messed up at times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just
Industry rule number 4080. Just
yes.
know that. And if you don't know, Google it, look it up. Rest in peace, Fight Dog. And the other group who I felt was very, very underrated, talented, backing band for various artists. First got their name made as Attention. They were believed signed to Island. Then they later rebranded themselves, came out on Columbia, put out this slamming record called Live and Learn, hailing from Buffalo, New York. Go Bills. And same hometown of Rick James, and I believe Frankie Crocker's, the late great Frankie Crocker, Chief Rocker from Buffalo, New York as well. Talking about Joe Public.
Yes, sir, man. Oh my God. These brothers right here, man, they super underrated because Live and Learn, yes, they known for Live and Learn, but they had other bangers as well, like I Miss You and This One's for You, and I have it, and I'm thankful I have that album to this day.
Yeah, their sophomore album was just as good too. The Easy Come Easy
Absolutely,
Go album. I've been
yes.
watching you off the debut album, Fire as well. So we talked about the male R&B groups that were underrated. Give me your top three underrated female R&B groups.
Oh, it's simple. And shout out to these girls too. I hope they shout out to you because Joyce Telbert, you know who you are. The good girls.
Mm, mm. Yeah, the
Man,
good girls, man. Motown, your
your
sweetness, my
sweetness,
weakness, just call me. They were a part of that regime when Gerald Busby left MCA to go over to Motown.
right,
And I believe today the boys and the good girls, they were all signed to MCA while Busby was there. But once he went to Motown, they all transitioned over to Motown with him. And he was marketing those three acts as the new
right,
generation's version of the Supremes, Good Girls, Jackson
and
5, The Boys, the Four
right,
Tops today.
exactly, exactly. Talented. They're so beautiful and talented, and yet so underrated. In this, I felt like they should have had uh, blown up bigger, but you know how it is. The music, that's the name of the music game. But the album's dope. You can't tell me I don't stop playing. I play them to this day, man, till they run out. Because that's how I give the artists they flowers, buying their music and showing love, showing that showing everybody that they're not forgotten, and there's somebody that still supports your music, still rock with you to this day, and that's me, and you too.
Of course.
Yeah,
All right, Good Girls, and who's the next?
I want to say they're not underrated, but I feel like they didn't get, of course, on the second album, they didn't get as much love like they did on the first album. And all of them can sing lead, all of them they got that blend. Shout out to Jade. I gotta put Jade on this one.
Okay, that was my one. So you got my one as well. So
Oh man, I'm sorry.
no. It's all good. So we're gonna do a double dip. Talk about Jade because I had them on there as well. Because I had a chance to interview Joy Marshall from Jade, and she
I remember
shared
that.
with me that "Don't Walk Away" was originally intended for Stephanie Mills, but I believe Stephanie Mills had passed on it, and that's how Jade ended up cutting that. It became a crossover hit form, and then of course the "I Just Want to Love You" single which preceded, I believe, "Don't Walk Away," which was on the soundtrack for Class Act, the J to the Max album,
Oh
dope
man,
album. And they
yes.
had that listening party album. I believe it was through BET because they did a special for BET for
Yep, I
Jay
remember that.
Party, and it was where they did all their stuff live. Jay vocally,
You got it, man.
no slouches at all. And that
You
run
got it.
Giant Records had with them, Color Me Bad,
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Jordan, Christopher Williams. I mean, Giant had it on lock back in the early 90s
Almost.
with the
Oh yes,
R&B,
most
hip hop,
definitely.
pop blend.
Yes. Oh yes.
Shout out to Cassandra Mills.
No question that. Shout out to Cassandra. Shout out to her, man. No question, man.
All right, Jay, Good Girls, and who's the other group?
The other group, I want to say, I'm gonna put this on here because a lot of people don't never talk about them, uh, but I'm gonna put them out there because they were signed with, they was discovered by my big bros, which maybe one day they get a star on the Walk of Fame themselves. Uh, the ex girlfriend.
Yeah, ex-girlfriend discovered, put together by Full Force. Why don't you come home? You're the one for me, which was the theme song for a couple of years for BET's Comic View
Comic
back in the
View,
early
yes.
90s when DL Hughley was hosting. And also Stacey Francis, she was on the US version of the X Factor season one as a contestant. That X Marks the Spot album, heat, heat,
He,
heat, heat. And let's give Full Force their flowers, all of them. Bowlegged
thank
Lou,
you,
Kurt TT, Shy Shy,
Baby
Paul
Jerry.
Anthony, Baby Jerry, and I believe it's one more down to help me out, man, because
He fine.
I don't want Bowlegged Lou to come and kick my freaking ear. Yep, because if you look at Full Force and what they did, where they took hip hop R&B, because I believe they were the predecessors to what was to later come with New Jack Swing, with what Teddy was doing. But Full Force was kind of sort of laying the template of that with their own stuff. Lisa Nicole Jam, UTFO, and to see them transition to doing their own stuff to where they get that pop money with producing All That I Have to Give for Backstreet Boys, how it became a huge hit, working early NSYNC, early Britney, early Rihanna, and just how they're still out doing their thing. And people, for those you that are too young to know Full Force other than just the Bullies from House Party,
Exactly.
Google their discography, please.
Yes.
Please do. Now I'm gonna give you my two since I said Jade was in my three. My other most underrated female group for me,
Yeah.
it would be Cut Close. I
Oh
feel
yeah.
Cut Close was very underrated. Cut Close, I believe they were discovered by Keith Sweat, produced by Keith Sweat. That Surrender album, ooh, that album was a problem, a whole problem.
It
And
was.
of course, Althena Cage, she was featured vocalist on Nobody with Keith. And then my other most underrated female R&B group, I'm gonna have to go with this was a group that they had only one album, but they didn't really take off like I thought they should have. They had that it
Oh,
was As If, it was He's Mine, and I'm going to go with Moke and Steph.
oh yeah, Moke and Steph.
Yeah, Moke and Steph definitely very underrated as a female R&B group. Now we're talked about R&B, so we're gonna go on now. Before we go to the pop side, I cannot let this go by where you got my North Carolina brethren on your shirt. Casey, JoJo, Dalvin, and Devontae. Let's
Yes,
talk
that's
about
right.
Jodeci, their impact on the industry, and how they have an upcoming Vegas residency as well, and how they just changed the face of R&B with their vocals, their style, and it's a great time to be a Jodeci fan. Like I said, they're out doing their thing. And of course, Fantasia is Casey JoJo's cousin, and she's doing her thing with the Color Purple musical blowing up and everything. So shout out to the home state of NC 252-336-704-919-910 in the
Yeah,
828. Even though I'm still in New Mexico, I still rep North Carolina all day, every day.
exactly. Yeah. About that, I'm gonna tell you a story about this. I feel when I first saw Jodeci, man, I was I think I was three. No, I think I was four. I don't know how old I was at the time. I was chilling, watching Midnight. I think Midnight Love at the time, or was it VOSO? One of the stations that was playing, and then I came across Stay, and uh, and I saw the video, and I fell in love with that song. I said, "Who's these brothers singing like that?" And then I ain't see the video no more. And I used to beg my mom. I said, "Please, mom, let me stay up." And because I had to go to bed early because mom don't play that because I have to be at school at a certain time. I had to be in bed at a certain time, so I couldn't stay up like I wanted to. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, she told you you couldn't just stay for a little while, right?
yeah, exactly. So finally, I got her to give me, let me stay up one time to watch see the video, and I did, and ever since then, I became a fan of Jodeci.
Yeah, man, that Forever My Lady album, classic album, came out in 91. Then, of course, 93, Diary of a Mad Band. And then 1995, I believe, the show, The After Party, The Hotel. Then they put out the Past, Present, Future album a couple years ago. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, they're going to have a residency in Vegas. So shout out to Jodeci. And also, if it wasn't for the late great Andre Harrell, if it wasn't for the late great Heavy D.
Heavy D.
We would not know of Jodeci because KC told the story on the R&B Money podcast with Tank and Jay Valentine about how they drove from North Carolina to New York in pursuit of a record deal, and they ended up going to the offices cold of Uptown MCA, just hoping to get discovered by anybody who would listen, and ended up being,
Exactly.
believe it was Kurt Woodley who first heard Jodeci sing, and then I believe he brought
Yep.
them to Andre Harrell and then Heavy D. And they heard him, and then that's where history was made with Jodeci and the ride that they went on. And this was right around the time when labels had artist development, and they would really groom you to where when you were ready to come out, you were ready because you knew of Jodeci because Jodeci was doing a lot of the background vocals for a lot of the Uptown records. They were doing
Oh yeah.
Five MC.
Yep.
Mary J was on the "I'll Do for You" song for Five MC. So by the time they came out, you already kind of had a buzz. Oh yeah, and they were both on the remake of the Fatback Band's "I Found Lovin'," which was done by Jeff Redd. And if it wasn't for Jeff Redd,
Exactly.
we wouldn't have heard of Mary J. Blige because it was where he got a tape from a, somebody who had Mary J. She was, you remember back in the day how they used to have those video booths in the mall where you used to be able to sing to your favorite record and do like a cheap bootleg music video? It was
Yep.
one of those. And Jeff Red heard it and brought it to the attention of Uptown. And that's how we got Miss MJB. Now we're going to transition to the pop side of things. We mentioned New Edition. We
Yes.
talked briefly about New Kids on the Block. So talk about the first time you heard New Kids on the Block and how their impact on the industry is felt just as much as New Edition on the pop side of things.
Well, just like the version of they was like the black version of New Edition. They sang from the soul with doo wop, the vocal style like that. And I understand because at the time, it was some. I ain't gonna say all people like that, but some majority of the people in our culture, they like wouldn't didn't want to give them a chance because they was white boys, what I'm saying, like singing R&B and something like that. But I embraced them as well. I'll say I say they had that soul, and especially Jordan Knight. He does them falsettos like that guy from Stylistics.
Russell Tompkins Jr.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and the right stuff. The please don't go, girl, man. I don't care. I don't care where you go to. You gonna hear a New Edition. You gonna hear a New Kids on the Block song like the right stuff. Please don't go, girl. And I'm talking about. I keep telling people music is timeless. Okay, I don't care. I don't care if it's 2026. Music is still gonna be timeless. And these brothers was talented as well.
Yeah, it's universal. I had a chance to interview Danny from New Kids and Maurice Starr, and how Maurice, that's where we got to give Maurice credit. A black man created the biggest pop group in the world. He said, okay, I'm going to take what I saw in New Edition and I'm just going to go to this side of town to it because there was no lane for pop male groups at that time. And he filled the void. And when you think about when New Kids first came out, they were solely marketed as an R&B group. It was where they were signed to the R&B division at Columbia, or at the time it was called the Black Division. They put out their 1986 self-titled debut album that didn't really do well. They were about to get dropped by Columbia because Hangin' Tough really wasn't getting any traction. But a pop radio station started playing Please Don't Go Girl. This was after, I believe, the DJ saw the first video of Please Don't Go Girl that was only shown on BET or other outlets that catered to R&B music. And that was
Right.
where Columbia got caught wind, started to pump more money. And that's where we got the black and white video with them over at Coney Island in New York. And then that's where all the pop exposure started. But when I interviewed Danny, he was sharing that once the pop phenomenon came in, it felt weird because their whole thing was we want to be an R&B group. We're gonna be big in R&B group. We wasn't even focusing on pop. Pop wasn't really on our radar. But once pop hit, that was where okay, we got a tailor-made fan base sitting here waiting and ready for us. And they ended up, of course, doing their thing. They're still out touring. John also does the renovating of the farmhouses with Farmhouse Fixer. Of course,
Yep.
Donnie's actor. Donnie has Wahlburgers. Wahlburgers delicious, by the way. And that, their impact in the industry can't be understated. Like I said, no them, no Backstreet Boys, no NSYNC, 98 Degrees, none of that. So shout out to Joey, Jordan, John, Danny, and Donnie, and also shout out to the General, Maurice Starr, because if it wasn't
Shout
for his
out.
vision, we wouldn't have the biggest pop group in the world. And he would not have discovered one of the most transcendent, influential, legendary pop R&B acts to grace the music industry in the past 40 years. Because,
Absolutely.
like I stated earlier, they were already cooking in 78. And then it was in 81, I believe. That was where they had the Hollywood Talent Night at the Strand Theater in Boston. That was where New Edition, they didn't win that contest, but because of the fan reaction was so strong, it led Maurice to say, okay, I'm going to record these guys anyway. And
That's right.
as you know,
Facts.
they're still here. And I want to talk about really quick another, not a group, but yeah, this guy was a part of a group who had pop success, R&B success early 90s. But his solo album, I felt was very, 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 very underrated. That was put out on Giant, and we lost him way too soon. Talking about the
I know
late
exactly. I
Tony
know what you're
Thompson.
talking about. You're right. Right. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes. What can I say about Tony, man? This brother, man, vocals. I'm like, brother got it. He had it going on, man. It's
Yeah.
like, it's to this day, it still hurt that he's gone. Cause how I found out about his passing, I, long story short, I was out of town. I was in my home state of Michigan, and then I seen episode of 106 Park. That's when Roxy and Terrence J was hosting at the time. You know how they do that the Throwback Thursday,
Mm,
Throwback Jams or something like that.
mm.
And they put on High Five like the way, and then he told me the news that he passed. I'm like, what? And then like in the strange thing was I was listening to that first album 2 months, 2 week, 2 days before that I got that news.
Man,
Yeah.
man, that is something. And then another R&B group who I felt because of the massive success of I Want to Sex You Up, you want to put this group
Uh,
in pop, but they are not pop. We're not pop at all. I mean, if you listen to the CMB album, then go listen to the Time and Chance album, you definitely hear the growth. You definitely hear the vocal. I mean, Brian Abrams vocally, mm 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 mm. Color Me Bad was a problem. Shout out to Sam, Mark, Brian, and my boy KT. What up, KT?
what's up, man?
Yeah, man. But Color Me Bad, man, they were a problem. And they also hailed from Oklahoma, Oklahoma City to be exact.
Yep, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, Oklahoma City. And of course, Oklahoma City also gave us, I believe, Hanson. Hanson's
Yep,
from Oklahoma City as well. And the R&B group back in the 80s. They were signed to a lecturer by the name of Mason. Definitely dope group, very underrated. They had a record called Breathless, which was definitely very dope. Shout out to Anthony Mason, who I had a chance to interview on beyond the album cover. Now, I want to swing back really quick, talk about Guy's debut album and how that album, when it came out, you knew there was going to be a seismic shift in music when that album was played because what Teddy was doing was light years ahead of where the industry was at because it was where you're either going to get it or get left behind because not a lot of people didn't get Groove Me when it first came out, but once it finally caught on and labels got it, that was where it was like, okay, they cook it with grease here. And then as we know on the album cover for the debut, it was Aaron, Teddy, and
Yep.
original Guy member Timmy Gatlin.
Yes.
Now, with Timmy Gatlin, I had a chance to interview him, and he explained the whole situation as to why he left Guy. And you could check that out. And it was because the label had already sent out the shipments for the album, so they didn't have time to do a reshoot of the album cover. And it was to where it was you heard Timmy on some of the Guy records.
Oh yeah, like you can call me crazy in business.
Now you can call me crazy. Funny story about that one. Had a chance to interview Kyle West, and Kyle West was telling me that originally was supposed to go in effect mode for I'll Be Sure. But what ended up
I knew it.
happening was it was where I believe Guy had needed an extra track for the debut. And Gene Griffin, rest in peace, he decided to keep that track for Guy, but they ended up keeping Al B on the backing vocals.
Yes, I knew that was him on the background.
Yeah, because like I said, that definitely easily, could have been on in effect mode. Like I said, it should have been on in effect mode. But
Yes.
that debut album, I mean, you knew Teddy, was going to be something special, producing music. And if it wasn't for Teddy settling down in Virginia Beach, we would not have heard of the Neptunes. Shout out to Chad, shout out to Pharrell, shout out to my guy Mike E. What up? And you can
Yes.
listen to the Master Plan album, which was supposed to be released on Capitol around 2000, but for reasons or another, never got released, but it's finally available to stream online. So definitely listen to that. Shout out once again to my
Absolutely.
boy Mikey, Master Plan. If you ain't heard it, you need it in your
I'm
life.
glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, man. Our bro Rashad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was a while back. He was trying to figure out. It's a long time. Like, who's that guy that sang that song, Master Plan? And I had to remember, the lyric and stuff like that. 'Cause you know me, I Google and I will make sure I find because I'm like I might as well say Google King or something like that, or someone like something like that. But and I look and I saw it. It said Mike E. I said that's him. That's it. And I told Rashad who he was, and he's like, "Bro, thanks, man. And I've been looking for that song and the artist." I said, "Hey, no problem." And Mike E is very underrated, man.
Yeah, very underrated. Good dude. Had a chance to chop it up with him. And he really broke down the history of the Neptunes. Cause like I said, he was originally in the Neptunes and the high school that they went to in Virginia Beach. Shout out to everybody in the 757. Princess Anne High
Yeah,
was not too far from Future Studios, where Teddy Riley set up shop, and they would just go by the studio daily, just hoping to get in and just be in that environment. And then it was where I believe it was a talent show in Virginia Beach that Teddy used to throw a lot, and the Neptunes was one of the acts on the show. And they ended up, I guess, impressing Teddy and everybody there. And that was where they ended up getting into Future Studios. And then that's where everything ended up happening as far as that goes with the Neptunes. And I mean, but if you think about it, man, that whole Tidewater area of Virginia, all of the talent musically to come out of there, them, the Clips,
Yes.
Timbaland, I believe he's about to get inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame this
Yes,
year.
man.
Missy Elliott, who's already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, and
Yes.
all
Shout
that
out to her.
talent came from the 757 Hampton Roads area of VA. So shout out to my folks from Two Up, Two Down.
Yes.
Yeah,
Virginia, man, got it going on.
Virginia's more than just for lovers. Virginia's for music heads. And
Exactly.
I want to go now to Boys to Men. What was your thoughts when you first heard Nate, Mike, Sean, and Wanye for the first time?
Oh man, man. I'm glad you asked me that because I've been down to tell somebody this. I already told Rashad this, but I'm gonna tell you this because Josie, you know, that's my one of my favorite groups as well.
Mm,
But when Boys Man came out, I said, "Oh, we got a competition going on for
mm,
another 4-man group,"
mm,
and their style was just so unique because they were like they had like the bow ties, the preppy outfits and stuff like that. They were because I dubbed them as the good boys of R&B, and Josie was the bad boys in R&B. But
right.
much respect for both groups because one thing about them, they respect each other. Because
Mm,
when Josie win an award or something like that, they will go over there with Boys Man and show them much love. That's how there's no animosity, no beef or nothing like that. Maybe a little friendly beef, like.
yeah, friendly competition, but I mean, it's two different styles of R&B. You know, like you mentioned, Josie, Bad Boys of R&B. They played the stuff that really wanted to get you in the mood with your lady, and if you really wanted to be on the rough, rugged, and raw side of things, shout out to EPMD. And Boys and Men,
Yes.
their stuff was more of okay, it's going to get played everywhere. It's going to be
Yep.
played on R&B. It's going to be played on pop. And once the two album hit, which is actually 30 years old this year, when you think about it, that two
Oh
album.
wow.
That
That long. Woo.
yeah, we're old, man, we're washed. But
Don't get me started.
that album really exploded Boys to Men, but End of the Road was really the spark that lit the fuse for the worldwide takeover of Boyz II Men, because originally it was just on the Boomerang soundtrack, and
Yeah.
once that song really took off, it broke Elvis Presley's record at the time for most
Yep.
consecutive weeks at #1. They ended up re-releasing Cooley High Harmony with End of the Road and The Still of the Night, and I believe a couple other mixes of other songs from Cooley High Harmony to capitalize
Yes.
off the success of End of the Road. And it was a record. When I saw that on This Is Pop on Netflix, Michael Bivins was saying how he had to trick Gerald Busby, the late Gerald Busby,
What you been
into
doing?
liking the record because I believe Boys to Men at the time, they just didn't want to be typecast as just being a ballad group because, coming off of It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday and The Success and then End of the
Yes.
Road, it was like, nah, we're not really feeling it. But, Mike knew like, okay, this is going to be the one that's really going to give him that pop exposure because Cooley Eye Harmony, when it first came out, it was a slow burn. But it really wasn't until It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday where the album really started to gain momentum and really take off. And a fun fact for some of you that may not know, but a lot of us music heads know, that Mark Nelson from As Yet, he was originally in Boyz II Men.
So absolutely, because a lot of people didn't know that. Because before he became a solo artist, there you go. Before he became a solo artist, he was once a member of Boys to Men, and fortunately, he left the group before they even, you know, start popping.
Yeah, because I believe he was singing with them when they met Michael Bivins at Powerhouse in Philly. And then I think he may have got a little bit impatient with waiting for things to take off, and then that's where he
Right.
left. I believe he signed a solo deal with Capitol, put out his cover of Marvin Gaye's "I Want
I
You,"
want you.
and
Yeah.
then after that, later formed As Yet.
Yes.
Yeah, which
And
is
then
definitely crazy when you think about it. And with Boys to Men, their influence, their impact, and we're seeing their legacy being carried on now with Wanye's sons and Juan Moore.
shout out to them, man. Them brothers are so, oh my God. These brothers are talented. I keep telling, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is beautiful seeing the people that in the young, they younger, they young, but they know about the real, they know about the realness about R&B, the realness, and like it's beautiful, man, seeing young kids like that, embracing real R&B. I keep telling people that R&B is not dead. It will never die. It's just some people out there is embracing R&B. You just gotta be patient and look out and look for these people, man.
Mhm.
Male or female, no matter what. No matter what, they out there.
Yep. And the apple does not fall from the tree at all. Because if you listen to any of Juan Moore stuff, I mean, man, you could tell that they were digging deep in daddy's crates and really studied, you know, Boys to Men and all the groups that came before him, put in that new school spin on for them old school R&B.
It's beautiful, man. And to me, that's like it's a blessing. It's beautiful because I know you got R&B out there. Some people, it's first of all, I want to put this out here. It's like I think we're the only genre. It's sad to say this. We're the only genre that we will kick our legends to the curb because they're not hot no more. They're not
Mhm.
they weren't popular like they used to be. And then like and it's sad they get labeled as washed up and da 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 da. But meanwhile, in the other genres like like country music and pop, even heavy metal, death metal, wherever you want, wherever you know, you got young or old, they still embracing the legends. And why you
Right.
think you see like Kiss still doing shows, Reba McEntire still doing shows, and NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, you name it, they still doing shows and you still getting love. I'm like, that's just it's just like my thing is like, man, we gotta show our legends flowers and respect because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have no good music out here today.
Right.
And
Right.
that's
And it,
why, you're right, and that's why I made it as a point that I will support their music and I will show love. I'll give their flowers. I'm not gonna wait till they pass away to do so. I'm gonna do it while they still here on this
right.
earth.
Right. And that was definitely a good thing that we saw all last year, celebrating hip hop's 50th and the Force Tour, which I had a chance to go see live when they came to Albuquerque. And hopefully they can do it again this year with another Force Tour because it was where you got to see a lot of the architects of golden era hip hop still out there performing. Like you said, it tends to be with, R&B and hip hop that the elders don't
Right.
really get that same reverence like in other genres to where they can still go out, do shows, put out
Exactly.
music, not get questioned as far as why you still putting out stuff, you're old.
Right.
But
Exactly.
we're seeing now where people are saying, okay, we have this act here that's still packing out fans, bringing in money, we're gonna get in business with them. Which I think Vegas is finally wising up now. Like we mentioned, Jodeci, New Edition, I believe Wu Tang is gonna have a short stint in Vegas. Christina Aguilera, she has a residency in Vegas, and I think Vegas,
Mhm.
and of course Usher, what he did with his residency, and we're gonna
Yeah,
get to see
man.
that live up close and personal in a little over a month. He's gonna be headlining the Super Bowl halftime show, so it's probably gonna be
What up,
straight
Usher? Shout out to him.
ATL. And I'm gonna say this real quick when we're talking about Usher. His debut album gets slept on.
Oh my God.
A lot of people look at the debut album and say, okay, the material doesn't really match the age. The
Right.
production was fire. The material, like I said, I felt some of it wasn't age appropriate, like if you can get with it, but he didn't really
True.
find his stride until he hooked up with JD and then put out My Way and everything that came on after that. So
Bro, I'm glad you mentioned that, man, because just whew, you don't know how many fights and how many arguments, how many debates I had to go through with this man's album because, like, you have people on here. I ain't saying all of them like that, but you had those majority of those people, and I always put majority because I'm saying not all, but majorities. These people, they like, oh my God, I love Usher's first album, My Way, and I said no, 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 no. That is not his first album. His first album came out in 1994, and that's his. And My Way is his second album, and that album is My Way is his breakthrough album. When I say breakthrough, that means it was his, you know, introduction to for sales, and that was his popular album. Then the
right.
first album, like same, like same scenario with like Donnell Jones, same scenario with Joe, same scenario with like I just mentioned earlier about Silk. Like you because some first albums don't be popping like
Yep.
like
Bobby
the second.
Brown,
Yeah, like exactly Brown
New
Brown,
Kids on the Block.
exactly. New Kids on the Block, because I had to go tooth and nail because like I don't know everything. Like I tell people straight up, I'm not a Mr. Know It All. I'm not know everything, but I do take time out and do my research, and I be looking in the albums. That's what I do, and that's what I be looking at. That I like to read. I enjoy reading. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's why I say I keep. Oh my God, the fights, the debates. I had to go with the album. That's why I say every time I post a anniversary of that first album by Usher, I had to go through this whole long diagram and say, "This is his, ladies and gentlemen, this is his first album, his debut, and the most popular song off that album was Think of You."
Yeah, which was a
And
dope record, and I believe that sampled
yes,
Tidal Wave by Ronnie Laws
yes,
off of that album. And we mentioned debut albums that didn't catch on. Um, I listened to the King of Stage album that Bobby did, and
yes,
it was where on the title track of that album, you heard the direction he wanted to go in on that album because on that album he had Mix Master Ice from UTFO cutting and scratching on that album. But the majority of the records like Girlfriend, Spending Time, Girl Next Door,
yep,
MCA was still trying to keep them in that new edition bubble. Where it was
right,
like, we're gonna have you sing sugary, sweet, candy coated pop R&B. But as we saw Bobby, he was like, nah, that ain't me.
no,
That ain't my personality. So,
no,
like as we mentioned earlier, once he got with LA and Face on Don't Be Cruel. You got to see the imaging, the styling, and you just got to
yeah,
see Bobby just come into his own and really just bring heat on any stage that he touched.
exactly.
Because I'm gonna tell you this right now, from 88 to about 93, 94, you could not touch Bobby Brown.
Show
Like I said, the man milked Don't Be Cruel for 4 years, from 88 to 1992, because the Bobby album didn't come out to 92. So this one album, he was able to eat off of this one album for
Yep,
4 years. Let's not
yep.
also forget the Scrap Mystical Magical album, which for some reason I do not know why that album was not released. Because the closest thing we came to that was in the 1990 MTV VMAs
Tap to my
when New
heart.
Edition did their first reunion. This predated Home Again 6 years. He did Tap Into My Heart. And that was the only thing we kind of heard off the Mystical Magical album. So hopefully it may see the light of day. I don't know.
Hopefully,
But that's the closest we've ever gotten to a cut off of that album.
right. Yeah, I'm like, man, I'm telling you, that would have been something if it was it was ever released or something like that. But I don't know what the situation was, and so and that's when he started working with Bobby, and I'm telling you, he went with a bang on this one as well, humping around. you know, the media, and telling the media shut up and like like get off my back and stuff like that. That's he was fed up with all the hate, the negativity that was coming his way
Mhm.
because who he is.
Mhm. Yeah.
He's just a real uh, entertainer that speaks his mind and he keeps it real. It just
Yep,
like I said, can't handle the
Bobby's a
truth.
real one, a
Yes,
real one indeed. Good dude. Got the Bobby Brown Fools, and
yeah,
just for everything that Bobby has went through, in his life, and to still have him still standing, still
yes.
outperforming, doing his thing. We gotta give a round of applause to Bobby, man.
Amen, amen.
Any of that stuff, it could probably just break anybody, but no, not Flash B, not Triple B.
Nope.
Bobby Brown is,
No,
still the man. I
no
mean,
matter how many times people try to knock him down, try to throw obstacles, try to throw mines at his way, he end up coming through like blazing fire. That's why, as I told you, you can't. Yeah, you can't knock him. Can't knock your brother down. You can't. No matter how many times you try, he just come. He just keep coming back up.
yeah, but I think MCA dropped the ball on one thing on Don't Be Cruel. You probably know where I'm going. Why wasn't I'll Be Good to You never released as a single? The closest thing we got to that was that cameo he did on 227 when Brenda bit her mama's book report just so she could win the contest to be in the Bobby Brown video. Shout out
My
to Regina King.
my goodness, I thought I was the only one that felt that way. I thought I was by myself with that.
No,
See,
you're not in the
I thought.
minority, brother.
Thank you, man. I thought I was alone. That I was like, why in the world that song didn't become a single and not let alone be a music video? Because that would have been, oh my God, that would blaze that album. That would take that album to another next level.
Mm-hmm. Definitely definitely would have. But just like how many licks it takes to get to a Tissy Pop, the world
Right, right.
will never know. So before we wrap, bro, any shout outs you want to give, plug your social medias, and where can folks find you if they want to talk shop about music with you, bro?
Oh, sure, sure, man. Shout out to first of all, shout out to you for this wonderful dope interview, and I made history again because you made it possible for me, man. Shout out to Jarrell Mason, man. Love you, brother. Appreciate you, man. 'Cause you are out of sight, man. Shout out to my bro Rashad, aka the R&B Effect. Now you call it the R&B Talk Show. Shout out to him. Shout out to my little bro Jalen J Dogs. And it's too many. If anybody I miss on my shout outs, man, charge to the head, not the heart. But you got love for me as well. They can also follow me on my main Instagram music page, music music video underscore Dejan W 86, and follow me on my Facebook page, Dejan Wilson, and, and just like send me all the love, send your boy some love, and I'll send it right back to you.
Yes, definitely showing some love. And you can catch this interview wherever you stream podcasts, on YouTube, on Anchor, wherever you listen or you watch. We thank you. We love you for your support of Beyond the Album Cover. We're going to keep coming out, cranking out the hits. And just like they said on the outro of where it all started from on Heartbreak, before transitioning into If It Isn't Love, you ain't know it was coming back like this on them, my brother. And that's what we did, ladies
Yes,
and
sir.
gentlemen. My homeboy, D Will. D Will, thank you once again for coming on the pod, sir.
You welcome, bro, man. God bless you, man. Have a wonderful, safe weekend, man.
Yes, sir.